The man fast asleep and a total disrespect this to Fayval and even to the country that they serve.
Could you indicate what those terms are in terms of the tenor of the loan and the interest rate? And I ask within the context of a concern that consumers will have about being charged higher bills to facilitate the repayment of this loan. So that's my
Blessings, ABR family and viewers. Welcome back to the channel. It's a girl and Isabel Rose. And in this one, the government is still set on deploying JDF soldiers to help Akompong despite the leadership refusal, as well as a newly appointed GenSec for the People's National Party. Nothing to be alarmed about. And the parliamentarians rigorously question the Finance Committee in the House of Representatives today. Even the members on the government side shows no respect for Fayval Williams. Please stay tuned for the details at hand. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. So, ABR family and viewers, after the brief visit from Anju and his team down there in Akompong, offering to deploy some 250 JDF soldiers to assist with roof fixtures. Right? The chief, Richard Curry, rejected same, basically stating that they have the manpower, can do the fixtures. The government should just basically hand over the resources that they receive for them to do so. Even after the refusal, the government is still set on deploying JDF to help Akompong. And what's about down at Akompong? It really begs to question when other parts of the same St. Elizabeth have been basically classified as ground zero. Other parts of the badly devastated areas, even in Westmoreland and the other 5 parishes, declared as ground zero. Why is the government still set on pushing them soldiers, forcing themselves to help the Akompong Maroons? It does not make any sense to me. If the Maroons are people were independent, warrior type of people where get things done on their own, why not hand over the resources to them? I don't know what to make of this, but in time we will get a clearer picture of what is going on. We see some of the Maroons, them are run out, stating that them want the help from the government, right? And so Richard Curry is basically calling for order, right? He's calling for order. I believe they have explained why they rejected the offer from the government. And so I am awaiting to hear more when this unfolds some more. So stay tuned for that. Now we see the labor rights them jumping up and down, talking about uneasiness. We even see in the Gleaner, reporting same uneasiness in, the People's National Party camp, which in a way there's nothing of that sort, right? A Dayton Campbell, who is the general secretary, a true general in the People's National Party camp, basically stated that he must step away from the role of, being the GenSec for a moment to focus on his constituency. We know that Eastern Westmoreland was badly hit, classified as ground zero, and so they basically appointed a long-time organizer, Maureen Weber, who is acting basically as the GenSec for the time being, and she basically has to report to Dayton Campbell, right? According to what opposition leader Mark Golding stated, right? So there's no internal problems in the People's National Party. And for the people them who are not aware, right? The General Secretary position is an elected position, right? So election have to go on within the party in order to get a General Secretary. So Dayton Campbell is still the General Secretary for the People's National Party. But he just wants to move away from that role for a bit to focus on his constituency. What's so wrong about that? What's so hard in that? What kind of internal problems? It seems as if the labor rights them just thrive off of disunity and thrive off of trivial things when we have people who are in dire need. Focus on the mind on that, no? No problems, no uneasiness, no unrest, no in the hierarchy of the People's National Party. Wanna leave the People's National Party business alone. Let us all focus on this government putting out the aid to the people them that needs it the most. With that being said, we're seeing the opposition badgering the Ministry of Finance, or better yet, the entire finance committee in the House of Representatives today. And so while the opposition wants to get answers to, many things that are still a bit cloudy to them as well as to the Jamaican people, they wanted to find out about this 150 million US loan to JPS. What were the interest rates? Because we're seeing the Minister of Energy basically come out and say them finalize, the whole loan agreement between the Jamaica Public Service. And so while the opposition throw some very important and vital questions to the Finance Committee headed by Fayval Williams, we're seeing total disrespect even from the members on her side. Desmond Mackenzie in this photo here sleeping, and everybody else seems to be having a conversation of their own. Them people are really care about the people's business. Desmond Mackenzie, who is spearheading the committee basically, or one of the chairperson in the recovery and relief post Hurricane Melissa. The man fast asleep and a total disrespect this to Fayval and even to the country that they serve. Anyhow, here are some of the pressing questions that a Julian Robinson, the opposition spokesperson on finance, posed to Fayval Williams.
In terms of the substantive question, first one relates to JPS. I have seen in the media where you have finalized the terms of the loan to the JPS. Could you indicate what those terms are in terms of the tenor of the loan and the interest rate? And I ask within the context of a concern that consumers will have about being charged higher bills to facilitate the repayment of this loan. So that's my first question.
Well, the terms of the loan to JPS is 5 years at 5.5%.
Can you indicate which government agency is the official agency providing the loan?
Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.
Or the ministry directly? Okay. There was, related to JPS, there was a allocation or a figure of 450 million US, not in the supplementary, but part of the overall loan package that the international financial institutions were providing as part of the $6.7 billion. Could you provide some clarity as to what that 450 million US allocated or earmarked for JPS would be used for?
So, member, the Ministry of Energy could give you further details, but in essence, this facility would be available to JPS, as they had indicated that there was a need for additional funding, where we would like for the 150 million that was allocated to them as a loan, for that to come back to us out of this facility, but all of that is left to be worked out.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, we have provided an upfront loan of 150. The international financial institutions have made a provision of 450 million, which JPS can draw down on and use that to repay the government the 150. Is that correct?
Just so you're aware, member, it's not something that is in place yet, but contemplated.
No, I know. That's why I say
some of
earmarked and not definitive. But it's important to understand what it is earmarked for and what is the thinking, because obviously there would have been discussions between the government of Jamaica and the IFIs around this facility. And since the figure is there, we just want clarity on it.
Very, very preliminary discussions, member.
Very preliminary. So when will you be in a position, I had asked you at the last sitting, to provide greater detail in terms of the 6.7 billion. We know 2.4 is private sector mobilization funding, but the direct government of Jamaica borrowing, when will you be able to tell us specifics on that in terms of the amounts from institutions, interest rates, length of period to pay, whether there's moratoria, etc.? When can you provide that to the House?
So, member, the announcement was made last week, and as you can imagine, with these kinds of facilities, there are many conversations, many rounds of meetings to happen. We are in the early days following this announcement, so please allow us some time. Obviously, government has to look at its priority projects. It has to look at the timing of those projects. There is quite a bit to be worked out, member, which would not be possible to bring to the House in a week.
Okay, I understand that, but would you be in a position to say when? And I asked that within the context. You have made projections around our debt to GDP ratio, moving up to 68% and moving higher. I assume those projections would account for what you anticipate that you intend to borrow to deal with the gaps that arise from the fall off in economic income activity and taxable income.
All right. The 68% debt to GDP that you referenced, member, is what we're projecting by the end of this fiscal year, which will be in another 3 months. And all, if not most of that, is primarily due to the decline in the GDP. As we look out in the medium term, that's where you would see reflected any drawdowns on these facilities that have been announced.
So no new borrowing for this fiscal year up to March 2026.
So in this fiscal year, member, there is a little bit of borrowing, but not enough to move the needle significantly.
No, that is just a small fraction of the many questions that were thrown at Fayval Williams. And me did I go drop my little 2 cents and give her a grade right here. So, but you know what? I mind say me for hold back. So me I ask all ABR family and viewers, well-thinking Jamaicans who will come across this video, but want to for drop in the comment section what on a grade Fayval Williams according to this fraction of video that you see, and overall her response to the questions in the House of Representatives today. Please go ahead and do so. Remember to leave a like, share out the videos just to see them. Get this video to at least 6,000 likes. Do stay tuned for more videos, stay tuned for more updates. Big up on yourself.